As I sort of hop on live here on YouTube, and of course we're streaming right where we're not streaming on Spotify, but we are recording on Spotify. We are live on YouTube, and I was kind of thinking before I hopped on and started to the record button. I feel like no one's talking about this weekend in college football. It just feels very quiet. No one's talking about it. Yes, we have Oklahoma and Michigan. Yes, we have Kansas, Missouri, but no one's talking about South Florida. No one's talking about James Madison, Louisville. No one's talking about those type of games, like the smaller type games that I have on the upset alert segment. We'll get to here in a little bit. Among other games, but just no one's talking about those games. I don't know. It just seems very odd. It seems to me that this could be one of those surprise Saturdays. Always happens towards the beginning of the year, where it's after week one, you sort of get through the first week, and it's a long 5-day weekend, and then you get to week two, you go, okay, there's a big non-con game or a interesting conference game, but then you have, you look at the schedule and you go, oh yeah, UNC hosting or UNC going to Charlotte, yeah, Vanderbilt going to Virginia Tech, Ole Miss going to Kentucky. Those aren't entertaining games. Those aren't games I'll be glued to my TV on. You say that to yourself now, and then come Saturday at 4:00, and you go, how in the world is Ole Miss losing to Kentucky again, and how is UNC losing to Charlotte? Like, that's the things I'm worried about this weekend. I don't think anyone's talking about how this could be a very much like classic surprise Saturday. No one's talking about it. It sneaks up on you, and once the games start and you see the results head into the fourth quarter, raise your eyebrows a little bit. But just something I wanted to put out there before we start the show. But welcome in for Verticals Podcast episode 124. We have one more game to bring down. It's Missouri, Kansas. We'll cover it, sort of, and talk about the game. We have upset alerts as usual for week two. As I just mentioned, there's several games on there. Several I mentioned, several I did not mention. It's a long list too. It's very elevated again. And we also have team record projections for the Buccaneers. Finally, some NFL stuff coming in. We have the team record projection for the Bucs. And we have the Bucs Falcons game one preview. Of course, the next game will be in December, I believe, or later in the year. I think either that or January. I have to check the schedule again, which we will do in just a moment. But that game's taking place on Sunday, so we'll talk about that game, preview that, and predict it. And we shall have a very probably more than ever shorter show, less than an hour, I think. And so if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and like the streams, videos. Be sure to follow on X, Twitter. Also follow me on Spotify. Doesn't cost you anything. I don't, knock on your door and say, hey, here's a form, sign up or whatever. I don't call you on your phone. I don't send you guys emails. It's all free. Just subscribe to it. The show's not behind the paywall. All the information that I give you guys is all open to the public, free, unless you have, as long as you have a mobile device, computer, phone, TV, internet, you should be okay. And it'll always be free. It'll always be free. Before we get into the show, I'm going to get some water real quick, and then I got to fix one little thing. I forgot to put something down, or I misspelled something on the old Google Docs, and we'll get started. Okay, yeah, that's fixed. I forgot to put in something there on the Google Doc, but we should be okay to go. Again, make sure to subscribe and like the channel, or like the videos, streams, and follow me on X, Twitter, Spotify, whatnot. So be sure to do all that, and that's all I ask for. So let's actually get into the game here. One last game we have to actually cover. Then we'll do our upset alerts. We'll move into the NFL side of things, and we'll wrap up the show. Missouri, Kansas. This is the border war. Finally back after a long time. I think this is the first time since 2011 they played the game. Of course, these two are no longer in the same conference, but they've decided to play each other once again. I believe this is in Columbia, Missouri. Let me double check, actually. I should have probably... No, I'm pretty sure it's in Columbia. I just got to check here. Sometimes it's could be a neutral site. I know that Missouri has done that before with games. Let me check here. I believe this is in Columbia. If I'm not mistaken, yes, it's a home game for Missouri. 2:30 on ESPN2 thought it would be a little bit different, or at least on a different network. I thought this would have been like the ABC game, but instead they were going to Texas at noon, of all places, against San Jose State. This game's interesting to me. It's very much so bit of a, I'm not just calling it a mystery game, but it's a mystery in terms of how these teams are going to look. These are both very, very good teams. Kansas, they're 2-0 for a reason. Very reasonable schedule, but, they look good in all the games they played in so far, right? They played week 0. They played last week. They took care of business. They've given up combined 14 points. They beat Fresno, and then they beat Wagner. And no, it's not the other Wagner. It's the Wagner College. And that was, I believe, on like Thursday, or Friday last week. So they've had some time to rest. Of course, they're going on the road, and after that, they start league play in the Big 12. I think the keys to the game here, if you were to really think about it, is, of course, yes, Missouri has Bo Pribula as their starter now officially. They're no longer doing that. This guy will play this series, and this guy will play the other series at quarterback. That was sort of shut down just based on performance, and now the other quarterback was hurt. I think Missouri here, because they're going against a very complicated offense and player to play against, Jalon Daniels. Defense needs to step up here. They really do. It's going to be a tough task for them. I mean, they will see this actually may even be Missouri's probably the most difficult quarterback they would have faced all year, potentially all year. I mean, if you really think about it, they get Kansas, they get your G5. But besides Elnora Sellers, I don't see that quarterback on this schedule for Missouri, besides Kansas and South Carolina, that really scares me. Like, I guess Marcel Reed at A&M, maybe Taylor Green at Arkansas, Oklahoma Mateer, I guess, would be the other one. But outside of like those three, like, Simpson at Alabama, not really. Auburn, Jackson Arnold, we'll see get more data and information. But it's not this might be one of like the third toughest quarterback we've faced all year. And that says something a lot about Missouri's schedule. I mean, it's a very workable schedule, which is why I believe we did their team preview. I think we did. Pretty sure I had them going like with their best case like 10-2 or something like that. If we did do that, but so that's the key here. Is defense for Missouri. They need to get some stops here. There's Jalon Daniels, and he can run it, man. I mean, he's the true definition of a dual threat. I know last year he really struggled after Kolnick. He went to Penn State for a little bit. He couldn't read the defense. Not to mention he got hurt. He's healthy at the moment, which is good for Missouri, or for Kansas. But also the bad thing is he's been running a lot of these games, even though you really don't need him to. So I think Missouri stay disciplined on defense. Offense needs to be efficient enough with Bo being the quarterback now full time and the home crowd. I know there's a lot of stadium construction going on. I didn't realize that was the case until I watched the game. Their game against Central Arkansas last Thursday or Friday. Didn't realize there was a lot of construction going on. So I don't know how it's going to impact the crowd per se, but it could. But I mean, Missouri, this is, again, one of their bigger home games of the year. I mean, you can look at their schedule. They get Bama at home, and they get South Carolina, A&M. That's kind of it. All of your other tough games, like the Auburn game, Oklahoma, Arkansas is on the road. So you got to take these, got to get, take advantage of these home games while you have them. And they do have kind of a split here in terms of good opportunities to get that home field advantage going, even with construction going on. But for Kansas, Jalon Daniels has to be the difference here. I do like the fact that he is playing better now, given it's sort of a year removed from transitioning from the new offensive staff to what Kolnick was running. Have a lot of respect to for Lance Leipold. He's a very good coach, very good coaching. Two of the best coaches in the country, I think. Two underrated coaches. You of course have Alpha Nerd, Drinkwitz over in Columbia. You have Lance Leipold. Both very underappreciated coaches, I believe, in college football. Obviously, they're not, going to be playing each other per se on the field, like we're, hyping this up like it's a UFC fight. But, these are two really good coaches and two staffs I really respect. And I think I forgot to boil this down. And of course, the FanDuel number is Missouri minus 6.5. It kind of feels right. They're at home field. I think it's baked in here. If this was a neutral site, I'd imagine Missouri, if you pick off 3 points, they're probably like a 3.5, 3-point favorite on a neutral. Even though I like Missouri, at least in terms of some of the pieces they have on their team, they're still a lot of new, right? I know they have the good running back from Louisiana. I believe that's where he's from. he should be a factor in this game. But as much as I do like Bo Pribley as a quarterback, and I'm sure a lot of Missouri fans would obviously agree with me. I mean, he was, if you forget, he was Penn State's backup for a lot of the regular season. Of course, he leaves during the playoffs because of the timing of the portal and whatnot, and because December is such a disaster for college football. If you don't remember, he was the one who came in during the the Wisconsin game, I believe. I think what it was, the Wisconsin game last year on the road, came in and won the game for him. So even though I do like Bo Pribula, big Drinkwitz fan, I think the better quarterback in this game was on the opposite sidelines. I think Kansas is going to win this game, and I think they cover. I just like Kansas right now. As long as Jalon Daniels can stay healthy. Now, if he gets hurt, then Missouri's going to win the football game, because I don't know if the talent there at Kansas is around him is the best. I mean, he is the engine that makes that, the vehicle run there at Kansas. And when they lose him, I mean, there's no, what's his name, the Bean kid from a couple years ago. There's no, at least competent back, at least to me, that can win you some games on Kansas's roster. I just don't see it. So I'm to pick Kansas to win. I think they do cover the spread, and I think they win. I think they win this game outright. So, look, I could be totally wrong too. And this is such a mystery game here. And I feel like a lot of folks have not watched either of these teams. I know a lot of folks didn't watch Missouri. I know some people probably definitely watched that Missouri Fresno game because it was week 0, and there was that was one of the biggest games of the week. So, I'm gonna trust Jalon Daniels in Kansas. I like Lance Leipold. And how about this, man? If this were to happen, how about the Big 12 getting a huge non-con win? Be pretty big for them, for sure. Again, if you are new here, new to the show, of course, we know this is the beginning of college football, college football has already began. This is the beginning of the NFL season tonight with Eagles and Dallas. We don't cover a lot of the NFL, but we do cover the Buccaneers. As a Bucs fan, we'll, of course, do the team record projection and preview the Falcons and Bucs game, the first game. Of course, if you don't watch the NFL division, teams and divisions play each other twice a year. So we'll preview that later, but we cover college football. We do Marvel, Star Wars news, and I'm a fan of those film franchises, if you will, or pop culture franchises. We do cover those when there's news, but since we're in the core of college football season, it's not a whole lot to talk about. Maybe we'll save that for next week when there's more time, but and then we also, of course, cover the Buccaneers. So if you like any of those things, and where it's Star Wars, college football, Marvel news, most on the movie side of things, or both of those, I guess Star Wars with TV and stuff. But if you're a fan of any of those, you're a fan of college football, fan of the NFL, as a fellow Bucs fan as I am, welcome in. Make sure to subscribe. Again, doesn't cost you anything. It's all free. So upset alerts for week 2. A lot, like I said at the beginning of the show, very, 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 very elevated. You thought last week was elevated. This one, I have some concern for several teams, as you will see. First one up here. Do you guys know who Louisville's playing? Who do you think they're playing? Another FCS team, another G5, a bad G5 team? What do you think they're playing, like Louisiana Lafayette or something like that? They're playing James Madison, Bob Chesney, head coach there, very good head coach from the FCS ranks, and he came over last year after Signetti left. Go take over Indiana. This is a dangerous game for Louisville. It's a competent program in JMU. Yes, I know the roster has turned over, but that JMU brand means something. I mean, they have done it before, and they can do it again. They're a team that has won 10 games around average in the past. I'm not overly concerned, but I'm kind of concerned about it. I thought Louisville looked really good against their FCS team last week. I think, on the Tuesday poll, I have Louisville in the top 15. They're a very good team. And, I like Jeff Braun, but I also like Bob Chesney as well. So this one concerns me a little bit. So I'm going to put this one in the yellow category. If you're new here, what we do here with the rating system, the upset alert segment, for the rating system, instead of using numbers, like a scale 1 to 10, we use the traffic light protocol. So green means no, good to go. Yellow, we're watching maybe. Red means we think the upset's going to happen, or has a very good chance of happening. So, and I'll just let you know now, there's a lot of yellow and red here. Unlike last week. I know last week we had less games. I think on there this week we have even more games because, like I mentioned at the beginning, I feel like this is a weekend that I feel like no one's paying attention to. No one's really thinking about. And there's a lot of potentials here for upsets. So that one is in the yellow category. Do you guys know who Illinois is playing on the road? Who do you think they're playing? A G5 team, sort of like with Louisville. Who do you think they're playing? They're playing Duke on the road. Duke and Louisville. I believe this is a Friday night game. I believe. Let me double check here. I believe this is a Friday night game. Let me see here. Duke football. This has to be a Friday night game. I'm pretty sure it is. No, it's not Saturday. It's at noon. Is this the game after College Game Day? I think it is. Let me see. It's on the ESPN. Yeah, it's following College Game Day. As I said last week, those games after College Game Day always concern me because it's a very early kickoff. This is interesting. So Illinois, not Louisville, Illinois. Of course, everyone's very excited about them. They're in the top 15 in most polls, and my internal poll, the Tuesday poll as we call it, we have them in the top 20. Yes, Luke Allmeyer is still there. Yes, Brett Bielema is a fantastic coach for the Big Ten in particular. But what concerns me about Illinois here? They're going against a very interesting Duke team. They have the Tulane transfer. Manny Diaz is a very good defensive-minded head coach. And what concerns me for Illinois is not that, I'm not concerned about the quarterback situation for Illinois, nor am I their ability to run the football, because I know that's what Brett Bielema doesn't want to do. But what concerns me is that they're going into a very hostile environment, a very underrated hostile environment. You think about this, I forgot who it was. It may have been either Cover 3 or one of the shows I listened to mentioned this. I think it was Cover 3 that they mentioned something about, Duke and their success at home over the past several years, and how their fans and students have witnessed multiple major wins for them. I guess I didn't realize that at first, but when that was mentioned, or I didn't realize that, I guess at first, when that was mentioned the other day, I was like, yeah, that's kind of right. They've had a lot of big wins there, and this could be yet another huge win for that program, whether it's Mike Elko years ago or now with Manny Diaz. I didn't really think about it. Yeah, they've witnessed a whole lot of major wins, and this would be yet another feather in the cap for a Duke program, for Duke, that everyone thinks of them for basketball. They've had a lot of success on the football field too, and this is again at home. It's an early kickoff. It's the dynamics here of Illinois coming over. It's their Super Bowl. It's an opportunity for them to get a huge win in a schedule that besides Georgia Tech coming to town, you'll have a lot of big games after, at least big national games. This concerns me for Illinois. And not to mention with Illinois, the fact that they have no real major receiver talent that can step up, that concerns me as well. So this is a concern. This is a code red here. I believe the line on this game, let me check. I believe it's, let's see here, checking FanDuel here. It's not what I wanted. This is Illinois minus 3.5. And what that tells me is that if this was on a neutral site, I'm assuming this is probably a pick 'em. So that's a pretty low number for a team that people have been borderline top 10. So that one concerns me. It's a code red. Duke can very much so win this game. Another one that no one's talking about. Baylor is playing SMU. So Baylor, let me check here. I'm pretty sure we talked about this. I believe we mentioned this before. I think they're playing 3 P4 teams, I believe, or 2 P4. Yeah, 2 P4 teams. So they're already playing. They've already played Auburn. Now they're playing on the road at SMU. So that's 2 teams from major conferences back to back. And of course, when they scheduled this game, I'm assuming they thought SMU would still be in the G5, but they're not anymore. So kind of a tough, low-key, kind of tough non-conference here. And I think I mentioned that back when we did the Baylor team record rejection back in June, I believe. This one again concerns me. Baylor, I don't know where their mojo is in terms of is Aranda able to get that team back in terms of getting them mentally back. They have I'm not going to say it's a crushing loss, but a little flat there in the second half. I'm sure if you're a Baylor fan, very disappointed in how you performed in the second half. They were just very lifeless. And then you go on the road and you're rewarded to go play SMU. And a very high-powered offense with, Rhett Lashley and Jennings, the quarterback there. I think just for, vibes purposes, in fact, they have to go on the road to, up the road literally to Dallas. This is a code red here. And I believe it's Baylor. I don't think Baylor's a favorite here, but I think just in terms of vibes here, if the vibes are right, let me get back to the top here. Baylor's not the favorite, but if the vibes are wrong here for Baylor, like I was just saying, like if Randa can't get that team back and he's lost it, or if he's lost him this early in the season, there's potential they could get blown out here. I know the line is SMU minus 2.5 for a home team, which is I think the market's respecting Baylor still. But what that, even though it looked bad last week, and I know a lot of folks are sort of down on Baylor, and even though I just said we'll see if Randa can get this team back, I think he can. I really do think he can. There's still a lot of talent in that team. Sawyer Robinson, very good again, very good quarterback, offensive game here, offensive oriented type of game. You have Jennings at SMU, and you have Sawyer over at Baylor. And look, as much as Auburn pulled away there in the second half, Auburn still gave up 400 plus yards to Baylor. Robinson from the football. So this team, at least offensively, can still do it. I think they can do it versus SMU. I'm concerned here for SMU. Again, if the vibes are right for Baylor and they haven't lost a team yet, this could be a very dangerous game here for SMU. They could lose the game outright. So this one's in the Code Red category. I'm watching it. Obviously, I'm very concerned. Next game, mentioned it at the beginning a little bit, sort of teased it. Ole Miss going to Kentucky. Yes, I'm aware Kentucky did not look good last week and had 50 yards or whatever passing. It was with Calzada at quarterback. But this one, like I mentioned, isn't going to get a lot of folks' attention, but it should. Ole Miss, for what it's worth, last week they played Georgia State. They won big. But if I recall, and I believe that I think I did watch the highlights, but it didn't look all that perfect. I think Austin Simmons, he did throw a couple. He had a couple of turnovers, so it wasn't all that clean. But the big thing here for this game that is interesting, at least for me, is the revenge factor for Lane Kiffin. They lose last year in a game that probably did end up costing them a chance to go to the playoff. If you really, I know that's hindsight's 2020, but the only thing we can do is look back, and yes, that ended up costing Ole Miss a chance to go to the playoff, and that was the Kentucky team that finished going 4-8. And I think everyone, including me, believes this Kentucky team is probably a little bit worse than last year's. So, but I cannot ignore, I cannot get out of my head what happened last year with Kentucky in a similar spot, mind you, in week 2, or it was week 2 or week 3. I think it was week 2 against South Carolina. Just all out ugly game. Carolina probably the more, obviously they were much talented, better quarterback and whatnot last year. But if you guys recall, that was a very sloppy game. It was not necessarily a blowout for Carolina. It was very sloppy. This could be that game, and I think for Kentucky, if they were to pull this off, if they were to, how the upset would happen, you got to slow it down, and you got to sort of try to do what you did last year, made the game ugly, find a way to, frustrate Ole Miss and get your crowd into it over there at Kroger Field. Of course, this is the 3:30 game on ABC. I'm pretty sure this will be Tess, Jesse Palmer, and Katie George will be doing the game. I think it'll be them. I'm not quite sure, but this one has me a little bit concerned, but because of the revenge factor, it's not in the red category, it's in the yellow, so I'm watching it, maybe. But just because, and also factoring, too, how bad Kentucky was last week, but, of course, the other side of me thinks, too, they could be hiding some stuff, because they knew this game was coming up, and, they had Toledo on deck, and, Toledo is a very good G5 team, even though Jason Campbell is the Mario of the MAC, so... I'm watching it. It's in the yellow category. We're watching it. Next up, do you guys know who Oregon's playing? They're playing Oklahoma State. And I believe the spread here, I believe it's 20, over 20, I believe, multiple touchdowns. I've heard cover 3. Those guys talk about it, but I've heard very little people talk about it. Yeah, the spread's 28.5. If you were to tell yourself that, man, just imagine that too. If you're imagine if you told yourself that back 10 years ago, that a Mike Gundy team would be playing Oregon on the road, and they're going to be 4 touchdown dogs on the road to Oregon. You told yourself that 10 years ago. I think yourself 10 years ago would have not just believed you, but this is where things have gone for Oklahoma State. It was really, really bad last year. They were not that inspiring in the week 1 game against an FCS team, I believe. It was very inspiring. You have to go on the road here to a very talented Oregon team. And yes, a bit of a mystery. It's obviously to major step up in competition from last week against FCS team for Oregon. But, it'll be the first time that a lot of the country will be able to see them. And they can flex their muscles here. I don't really see a major path here for Oklahoma State to even make this game competitive if they were. I think they got to do some stuff, just go crazy on offense, right? Do some things you haven't shown yet. Maybe you were against sort of like Kentucky, maybe holding some stuff back. Maybe you're able to surprise, sort of, jump Oregon a little bit. But I don't think they will. This one's in the only game in the green category. I'm only bringing it up because it's a big brand name game. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that's a decent brand game. Oklahoma State, Oregon. This game should have more attention on it, but it's not going to because everyone thinks Oklahoma State last year was what they were. But then again, everyone thought that about Florida State, and then we saw what they did. But unlike Florida State, Oklahoma State has to go on the road to Oregon. So that's why, it's a green. I could have easily put in the yellow here because I sort of rightfully did put the Florida State game in the yellow category. But because it's at home, if it was on the road, like if it was Oregon going to Oklahoma State, then I would be like, we'll see. We'll watch it. At least we'll keep an eye on it. But this one, in my opinion, it could get ugly very quickly. So I have this one in the green category. I don't think the upset's going to happen here, but who knows? We could come Saturday night when we do our reaction recap. I could look like a total idiot and not even talking much about this game. So Oregon, Oklahoma State, I think Oregon's good here. I don't think the upset's going to happen, but it is on the list though. So just if that means anything. This one is interesting. So Florida's playing South Florida, and we all saw South Florida just splatter Boise over across Tampa at Ray J. This is a massive step up in competition. Obviously, the dynamics here are a little bit different. Florida coming off of a very simple win over. I say simple. They took care of business against FCS team, but simple enough in terms of simplifying some stuff, keeping the offense. And I was actually able to watch this game. I was at a bar Saturday night. Was able to watch a little bit of this game. They kept it pretty simple, from what I can tell. I haven't watched the full replay, but so obviously, yes, this is a major step up in competition for both teams. Even for Florida, yes, South Florida definitely heads and shoulders better than whatever Long Island is. But this one concerns me a little bit because if you don't know, Florida, they get LSU, I believe, next week. If I'm not mistaken, that's the Saturday night football game, I believe. Let me double check just real quick. It's either next week or the week after, but it's coming up soon. I'm pretty sure it's next week. Let me check here for the schedule. Yeah, it's next week. Saturday Night Football, ABC. It's on the road. I'm sure that's where College Game Day is going to be at. The fact that it's a look-ahead spot and you have USF, you look at this game as their Super Bowl because they don't have, besides this game, there's no real, I guess, Boise last week, but this is their next to take that back. They get Miami. Actually, they get Miami, ironically, too, after, and both Florida and Miami play each other. But at least one of their last opportunities to get a major win. Like, besides Miami coming up, there's a real chance here that they could spoil Florida's fun here. And, they have Florida in a look-at situation. So, because of that, it is Florida going against the veer and shoot. And, yes, they do see that every single year pretty much with Tennessee. But, Byron Brown's a good quarterback. We'll see how much Florida – and we'll see how much they show here because, again, it is a step up in competition. Of course, you don't want to show too much before the LSU game or, heck, even before the game against Miami, which is looming very, very large here. Could potentially have, that could be a late night ABC game. But this one concerns me a little bit for Florida. Again, I just, look, if they have to I can totally imagine it here. Just like, it's late in the fourth quarter. It's 28-20. You're kind of thinking to yourself, man, what's happened to Florida? And you forget, oh, yeah, it's South Florida. Yeah. So let me check the spread here. I'm pretty sure it's not a fat line on the spread here. Yeah, it's 17.5. That's kind of interesting. So, yeah, this line has me concerned a little bit. Look at that spot, but I think Florida, in terms of overall talent between South Florida, even as South Florida, I still think there's a really good G5 team, but the talent level is there's a major gap there. There's no really sugarcoating it, but having to face them before LSU going on the road does concern me. And not to mention, it is one of USF Super Bowls, and up to including next week or their next game. I don't know if there's a bye week in between, but that one's in the code yellow. Just we'll watch. I think Florida's going to win the game outright, but I wouldn't be surprised if USF covers a little bit because Florida's trying to. It's kind of like that situation with, I think a lot of fans feel this way, mainly in college ball, not so much in the NFL, where it's, okay, let's just get through this game, then we'll we can go crazy about next week. It's just kind of that dread of, let's get through whatever this game is, how ugly it's going to be. Let's put all of our attention to next week. So, the worst thing for Florida happens is losing this game, and that would be interesting to say the least. So we're watching it. Next one. This one totally off the radar for some, but maybe it shouldn't be. You guys know that UNC plays Charlotte. I think most of you know that. But are you guys aware that they're going to Charlotte? That they're going on the road? Pretty sure they are. I don't think that's a typo on my end. Let me see here. Charlotte football schedule. Yeah, it's on the road in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the line on this game, I believe, is it less than a touchdown? I think it is. Let me see here. 13.5. So just barely above 14 points. This one concerns me. And not so much because, look, UNC should have more talent than Charlotte. That is true. Yes, Charlotte's probably one of the worst teams overall in FBS. Yes, that can be true. But what concerns me for UNC, as we may have, I don't think, you talk about this on the Tuesday show or the Monday/Tuesday, I guess, because it was late after the UNC TCU game. But one of the things, I don't know if I said this or not, but I guess I'll say it again if I didn't. The thing that concerns me here for UNC with the new administration with Belichick and whatnot is the fact that in the NFL it's a bit different because it's not so much you're dealing with younger players, and it's a little bit easier to get your NFL teams focused a little bit. I don't know. I guess it's because you're dealing with professional players, and they're obviously moving more mature. But what worries me for UNC is that has Belichick and that whole administration, are they going to lose the locker room is what I'm concerned about. And the game like this, after you got blown out at home, your reward is you get to go on the road into an NCAA's team. And the one thing that I can't get out of my mind after that TCU game is, wouldn't it be equally or even more embarrassing for North Carolina to go on the road to a fairly new in-state G5 team and losing to them on the road? That would be that would by far be the worst loss in Belichick's career, both in the NFL and college now combined. Obviously, that would be a total disaster. I mean, look, it happened to UNC last year. They give up 70 points plus to JMU. So that's not impossible to think here. I think that has real concern for me. Just from the vibes perspective and the fact that it is an in-state school, it's their Super Bowl. I believe it's Charlotte. Did they win last week? No, they lost to App State, and that's kind of expected. It wasn't that much of a blowout. It did okay, I guess. But this one concerns me. It's in the yellow. It could really be put in the red category. But I think UNC will win the game. But I think it's going to be pretty close. I don't expect this to be a non-competitive game. I think this will be very competitive. I think the fact that it's going on the road, at least my fear is Belichick has lost the team. That's my fear. I hope it's not the case, but I just can't get it out of my head. The scenario of Charlotte beating UNC Saturday, it just won't really surprise me. So just be careful. This next one has me very concerned. So I think a lot of folks, know that Vanderbilt's playing Virginia Tech because it's a return trip from last year when Virginia Tech came to Nashville. Now it's at home. And the spread on this game, what do you think it is? Virginia Tech dog here? They're not. They're actually favored by 1.5. I personally think the wrong team's favored here. I think Virginia Tech has a ton of flaws. Look, I know Kyron Jones wasn't. I mean, he's an okay player. I know he wasn't the issue they lost, but he was one of the issues. I think the wrong team's favored here. I think Vanderbilt has a much better quarterback in Pavia. They have a much better system. I think they have probably better athletes. I know that's kind of just insane to say, but I just don't know if, much like with UNC and Belichick, I don't know if Brent Pry can get this team back. I think they, to me, seem kind of lost. And it was just one surprise. And look, I don't know. I hope they do win here, and it'll be great if they do. Look, I mean, it'll be really nice if they rebound, they're able to beat Vanderbilt, and you're able to, breathe a sigh of relief. And who knows? Maybe it is sort of the revenge factor here. Maybe it's, hey, we had what happened last week. Let's get home. Let's get the home crowd behind our back. Enter Sandman and whatnot, and go team and whatnot, and let's remember that last year. Let's show the world we're not that bad. Possible, but I just think the wrong team's favorite here. I don't like this for Virginia Tech. So this one's in the red category. Very concerned. And this next one, we have two more here. We'll have one more after this. Do you guys know who Arizona State's playing? Who do you think they're playing? Playing like Northern Arizona, something like that. Utah Tech. They're on the road at Mississippi State. What do you think the line is? Like 21 points or whatever? Because Miss State, one of the worst teams in the SEC. What do you think? What do you think the line is? 28.5, 45.5, million and a half. It's 6.5. That's interesting. That is interesting. When I saw this the other day, I was like, this concerns you a little bit. Now look, I know Mississippi State's the worst team in the SEC. I've just said that. I know they're really bad. I know they struggled last week against Southern Miss, but I think what is interesting with some of these teams, even the worst teams in the SEC, we saw this with Vanderbilt last year. With of course, everyone thinks about the game against Bama, but to me, it was really the Virginia Tech game, where some of these little teams in the SEC, wherever it's like Vanderbilt, South Carolina in the past, Mississippi State, they always have these games circled as like the Super Bowl games, which is something that Josh Pate uses. This is a Mississippi State Super Bowl game. It's your big opportunity. It's early in the year. Everyone's still bought in. It's not, late in the year. If like this game was in November, which would be really weird, but if it was for some reason in November, I would say, you'll take Arizona State and lay the points. I can't say that here. This one concerns me. Someone's calling me. I'm going to pause real quick here. I'm going to mute. All right, sorry about that, guys. Had a little. These people know I do my show on this time of the day, but that's okay. I may have to pause again here, but I'll probably pause again in just a second. But where are we at here? Arizona State, Mississippi State. Yeah, this one has to be a concern. It's on the road again. It's Mississippi State Super Bowl. This has to be a concern. So I put this one in the yellow category. So we're watching it, but some concern here. And the last one, West Virginia, Ohio. Where do you think this game's at? It's at home for West Virginia. It's on the road. And I believe the spread on this game here, if I'm not mistaken, it is, let's see here. I don't think it's on here. I thought it was, but let me check here real quick. Ohio. Yeah, it's 3.5. West Virginia. So yet again, concerns me. West Virginia, we've talked about it. I'm trying to go in quickly here because I have to pause real quick again. But, there's some concern here. It's on the road. It's at a decent MAC team. West Virginia, brand new coaching staff, as we mentioned, with Rich coming back. Totally new roster. Concerns me. And a lot of these programs like West Virginia, who, you'd think they're disaster-proof, are not disaster-proof. So this one, code red, the fact that it's on the road. And Ohio's done this before, by the way, with Big 12 teams, Iowa State years ago. So that one's in the code red category. And, for enough upset alerts, again, I'm going to have to pause real quick on both YouTube and Spotify. So nothing's happened to your recordings. It's just I have to go take care of something real quick. but unfortunate timing. But we're right back on YouTube. Don't go anywhere. We're not. The show's not going anywhere or anything. We're not done yet. So I'm going to pause. Or I'm going to mute. I'm going to pause on Spotify. So if you're worried about the show, audio cutting out, it's totally on purpose here. So I'll be right back in just one moment for on you live on YouTube and on Spotify. I'll be back here in moments here. So if you hear a dead air, then you should be okay. And I accidentally cut off the Spotify recording, so that is not being pushed on Spotify then. So apologies for that. Unfortunately, I clicked the pause button instead of the. Well, I guess we can restrict the thing because you can do two-parters. But anyway, on YouTube, we'll be back here in just a moment. I gotta take care of something, and we will reconvene here in a moment. We're gonna mute, and then we'll be back. Okay, we are back on YouTube. I have to take care of something. That's okay. I had a visitor come in. But so what happened here, well, I guess since we've rated upset alerts, I guess. So what we're going to do is, since I accidentally stopped the recording for Spotify, we're going to split that up into two, I guess. It'll be like episode 124A and 124B, which I guess kind of makes sense. So we're going to do the second part, be all NFL based on YouTube, because it doesn't matter. We're over close to an hour. But anyway, we're whatever. We'll make it work here. So for our YouTube friends, this is not going to matter here. We're back. But hopefully you guys didn't hear we were all talking about. I think I didn't mute everything. I don't think you guys could hear anything, even if you did. Probably not that big of a deal. So what we're going to do here, we're going to restart the Spotify stream. We're going to have to start a new recording, and then we'll just continue on with the Bucs stuff. So 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to the Four Vocals podcast for the Spotify version from YouTube. This doesn't matter. Sorry for the issue with the audio there for the recording for Spotify went out. So this is the second part of episode 124. So we had to, I guess, on the fly split these up. So the first half was college football upset alerts. Second half is going to be the Bucs stuff, Tampa Bay Buccaneers stuff. So just think of this as a continuation of the show. We don't usually do this, but I guess it just worked out. We had a small little, I guess, mini, I guess, conundrum, if you will, that I had to handle something, but it's all right. So we are back. We're moving right along as if nothing happened. So anyway, so we just did finish up the upset alerts. If you didn't, if anything happened on the Spotify side of things or even on YouTube, I will post the upset alert stuff tomorrow on Friday on Twitter. So or X, Twitter, whatever. So you'll see what the games I chose there. So you'll be fine. But all right, let's go into Buccaneers. We have not done their team record projection yet. I was purposely saving that after the preseason. Now here we are, the season, literally NFL season starting in about a few hours or so, or several hours. So Bucs team record projection first, and we'll do the Falcons first game prediction afterwards. So Bucs record projection. Over-under from FanDuel, I believe, is 9.5. So that makes sense. Their schedule, if you need a refresher on who they play. Of course, they have their divisional games as usual, but, of course, their other games change out every 4 years, especially with the AFC. So in between week 1 and their bye week, they play in order here at Falcons, Houston on the road, Jets at home, Eagles at home, San Francisco playing them after, Seahawks on the road, San Francisco at home, Detroit. That's a Monday night game. There's actually 2. There's the Texans games Monday night. Then the second Monday nighter is Detroit on the road. So both Monday night games is on the road this year for Tampa. Then the last game before the bye week is the week before Halloween, which is at New Orleans, which is similar to last year a little bit. They had their bye week. So very similar to last year. I liked where the placement is for the bye week. I like it this around this time, like in between Halloween and November. So that's good. Then after the bye week, we have New England at home. Buffalo, if you go on the road. That's probably the toughest game of the year. At Rams, also probably really tough. That's Sunday Night Football, by the way. That's on NBC. Cardinals, that's at home. That's on Fox. Saints at home. That's actually a CBS game. Then after that, I believe that's a Thursday night game. So much like last year for the Falcons, the Bucs, one of their games is on Amazon. That's a Thursday night game. And then Panthers come, or we go to Panthers, similar to last year before Christmas, and after Christmas, it's at Dolphins for the rivalry game. And then Panthers on week 18. That week we don't know yet. Of course, they'll determine that once we get closer. So those are the game summaries here. And look, this is a tough schedule at the beginning. Very similar to last year. And if you guys remember last year, it was before the bye week, very tough. A lot of losable games. After that, sort of levels off. Similar in a sense. I mean, look, the toughest games on here, both Falcons games, obviously, that's your big divisional opponent, at least as of currently in the current structure of the NFC South. They're your toughest opponent, the Falcons, in that division. Eagles, definitely this would be, if you were to go like tier 1 teams, the hardest teams, they're a tier 1 team. Eagles. 49ers, I don't care how bad the roster might be or how old it is, whatever. That's a tier 1 team. Detroit, tier 1 team before the bye week. So that's already 4 tier 1 teams. And then I guess you have the Texans as a tier 2, borderline tier 1. So that's 4, in my opinion, tier tier 1 teams, 4 tier 1 teams afterwards. Well, in terms of grouping of teams, I guess, but in terms of bye week, you have like 3 individual tier 1 teams, and you have in total 4 already. And then after the bye week, you have 1 extra tier 1 team, which is Buffalo. So that's 5 tier 1 teams. I mean, those are games you could easily lose. I do believe the hardest game on this schedule in general, definitely Buffalo. It's not in December, which would have really concerned me. What it is in November, it just means you could potentially get snow here, so that does concern me a little bit, given the travel dynamics. A lot of these, I know it's a little bit different in the NFL than it is in college, but especially for the younger guys who have not experienced that type of cold, or at least in a while, that's concerning. The easiest game on this schedule, Saints or Patriots. I think the Saints might be a little bit more easier than the Patriots, but we'll see. I mean, look, the Saints, it's a rivalry game in division, literally one of the bigger rivals for Tampa, at least historical rival. That's obviously a big game for both fan bases. Of course, if you're new to the NFL or don't follow it, rivalries in the NFL don't matter that much, but I guess they kind of do a little bit. At least there's not a lot of like regional rivalries. There's some in states and there's some like regional, but at least divisional and stuff like that. But this sneaky game here, the game that is kind of sneaky, at least the opponent, I think it's the Dolphins. I know it's late in the year. I know everyone's kind of punting on Tua and Mike McDaniel, but it's a rivalry game. It is a regional rivalry game. It has its own Wikipedia page. So that game concerns me. It's because the offense is very unique. You have good talent there with some of the receivers, and Tua, if he can stay healthy, I think is fairly decent, decently good quarterback. So again, if some of these games, like the Detroit game, that also scares me. At Seattle's another sneaky game. Early on in the year, look, you have 2 back-to-back road games that you could very easily start 0-2, or you can start 2-0 or 1-1. So, again, first half for the bye week is very difficult. There's a lot of L's on that schedule, probably. At least teams that can easily beat you. And then afterwards, it sort of levels off a little bit. But even besides the schedule, of course, we'll get to the projection here in a little bit, or in a few moments. This might be the most talented team that Tampa, at least Todd Bowles, has had offensively. Now, defensively, it's a different story, and we'll get to that. But offensively, I think I'm going to say it's the best receiver core in the NFL. There's certainly some other ones, like, Kansas City has a lot to say about that. Even Baltimore has a lot to say about that. Some of these other, third-around type of teams, at least teams that pay players, Dallas with CD. But in terms of maybe a symbol talent, it's definitely up there. It's probably in the top 5, top 10 easily. Tampa still has Mike Evans, who's I think is a top 5 receiver in the league, even in his older age. He's still doing it. He still chasing that consecutive 1,000 years in his career, 1,000 receiving yards. They also bring back Chris Godwin, who might be able to go this weekend. I don't think so. At least I don't think they really need him yet. I'm much rather him be healthy for games later in the year. They still have him. I know McMillan, the rookie last year, who was a big hit for Tampa. He'll be out for a while, but you have Emeka Ibuka, who by the way changed his number to number 2 from number 9, which number 2 was his college number. So cool to see that. Figured out was going to happen once Trask got released, which is something I don't think we even talked about. But yeah, he's got released, and now Tampa's backup quarterback is Teddy Bridgewater. Don't know how confident I feel about that, but oh well. So you have a half veteran, half young receiver core, but it's definitely in terms of raw talent and experienced talent, it's probably the best that Tampa has probably had since Todd Bowles has been there in the running back room. Even with some of the injury concerns of like Rashard White, it's still pretty good. Bucky Irving's your starter. Sean Tucker's very capable backup, change of pace running back. Tight ends, I'm still a huge defender of Kate Auden. I think he showed a lot of Bucs fans in particular last year, even though I was high on him last year. But if you forget, a lot of folks were not impressed with him, or at least were not buying into him. I don't know why, but he's still really good. Defensively, though, for Tampa, this is where some of the questions come in, particularly on the back end. You guys know they looked really good in the preseason. That's wonderful. I think they got the best safety in football, or at least one of the best safeties in Anton McPhill Jr. He's really good. They also bring in the rookie, Ben Morrison. They have a really good defensive line with Kanzi and Vita Vea. They also have decent linebackers. Now Levante's getting old in age, but look, even at his age, he's still playing at a very decently high level. Yaya Diaby is still fairly decent. So they have a good core in terms of, defensive guys, but the secondary, despite it having good success in the preseason, I still have questions about. We'll see. But I think the front ends, I feel okay about. O-line, it's, again, the best they've had there in Tampa. Taught us have there for the most part. I know the Tristan Wirfs situation, I think he'll be fine. Even if he can't go this week, which I think he might be able to, we'll see. Regardless, with Baker being more of a dual threat guy, I mean, it doesn't concern me. If there's a pocket passer, then I'll be really more concerned. But, is what it is. But in terms of their record projection this year, if you were to look at the best case, like we do for college year, best case, worst case, reasonable. Best case to me, scary beginning of the year, before the bye week. After the bye week, I feel a little bit better about. I think the best case is 12-5. With the over-under from FanDuel, who, by the way, I should mention, sponsor of the show, just the asset we use, is 9.5 wins is the over-under. I think I mentioned it earlier, but that's the over-under there. I think 12 is probably the highest you can go. I've seen some people say like 13-4. That's a little bit extreme for me. I don't think we're there yet. But, hey, as a Bucs fan, I mean, look, post Brady, like if you were to tell me that Tampa would be not only be consistent, but consistently be in the playoffs, instead of how it ended after their first Super Bowl with Gruden and how that thing just fell apart like fast. I mean, if you were to tell me 10 years ago as a Bucs fan, I'll be so happy, man. Even after Brady left, you were to tell me, hey, look, in a couple years, you guys would be in contention for still being the best team in the NFC, South in particular. So 12-5 is probably your best case. Worst case, I think, is 9-8, which would not be terrible. Again, given on that schedule, you have a lot of tough games. Look, there's a real chance you can start 0-2. That wouldn't surprise me. There's a good chance of that. There's a good chance you could really struggle in the first half of the schedule, given who you are playing. Again, I mean, if you're looking at that first half for the bye week, and your two games that you feel comfortable about, the winning Jets, clearly, I mean, they're probably going to be tanking for a quarterback. Saints, yes, it's the rivalry. Look, I clearly respect it. I'm no Saints fan either, but still, it's a rivalry game. You got to respect it. So that's why I think the Jets are probably more of our easier team to beat. And plus, that Saints game's on the road as well. And that's, given how bad that team might be, it's, at least early in the year, you still have fans invested and whatnot, right? So that's where the 9-8. That's where the 9-8 could come from. Not to mention, of course, you have the Lions and you have the Eagles running there as well, along with the 49ers, who you seem to not be able to beat. So that's why that's still considered, to me at least, as a tier 1 team in terms of difficulty. So 9-8. Of course, injuries would be in there too, much like last year where things started to pile up a little bit. So that's Big Ten. Reasonable here. I thought about this. I thought about going 12-5, but I couldn't do it. I restrained myself. I couldn't do it, but I do think they will go over. I think the reasonable route here, I think, is 11-6. That's just my opinion. I think the sneakiest game on here, like I mentioned, sneakiest game is probably that Dolphins game late in the year. Another one, too, is that Seahawks game on the road early in the year with Sam Darnold, who, look, I know a lot of folks disrespect a little bit. Look, I wasn't a fan of him either when he first came in, but, after last year, him working with O'Connell there and with Vikings, I think I'm a little more better with him. If you were to give my opinion on him, I think I like him a little bit more now. He's more confident. It's Mike McDonald is a very good defensive mind. Even though, yes, he's a second-year head coach, but still, I mean, it's a tough environment. It's early in the year. You have to travel out west. And I'm not always a big fan of that. So that does concern me a little bit. So that one in the Dolphins game concerns me. The Dolphins game, because it's an in-state rivalry. It's Mike McDaniel, and that offense is very complicated. It's the offense that Tampa has not seen a whole lot of. So, and again, that Seattle game, too, it's kind of looming large a little bit. But, yeah, I think 11-6 here probably pretty reasonable for Tampa. In your record projections. Let's see here. Is there anything else in here? No. All right, so Bucs Falcons this week. First of the games in their division, right? If you're new here or if you don't follow the NFL, yes, teams and divisions, and your teams in your division, you play them twice. So this is the first Falcons games on the road to start off. It's the second time this decade they've had to do this, Tampa, starting on the road. They did it a couple years ago at Minneapolis. This feels pretty similar to that. That game against Minneapolis years ago, I believe they were the dog in that game. Tampa, clearly it was Baker's first game. I thought they were going to lose that game. I know we didn't have a show back then, But I really was convinced that they were probably going to lose. It's a tough environment, really good team you're going against. I just didn't feel good about it. And they won. Tampa won, and they shocked me. I think that was I know this is like going way back in the time machine here, but back then that was probably the best win of that weekend, I think, if I recall correctly. That was one of them. But Tampa, according to FanDuel, again, not a sponsor of the show, is a 1.5-point favorite on the road, which is interesting. Of course, it's no longer Kirk Cousins. It's Michael Penix, who Tampa has not seen yet. He's a quarterback that is still, he's his second year in the league, but he's still like he's a second-year rookie, if you will. The only data we have on him is both preseason, some of last year a little bit, and his time at Washington. And I respect Michael Penix. And look, as a Bucs fan, I respect him. His career in college is very, very good. I don't think it's going to be appreciated as much as like other college players who've moved on to the NFL, like Lamar, Sean, at least on the field. Guys like them, Tua to a certain extent, sort of the history of those players. I think Penix is a very challenging quarterback to face. But in terms of, we just don't know a lot about him, but what makes me comfortable about Tampa here is Todd Bowles and his ability to, sort of like Brent Venables when we talked about with Oklahoma and Michigan, the same thing applies here. And this is the toughest team he's had, at least the toughest defensive coach that Michael Penix has ever, in my opinion, had to go against in a football game, both in college and in the NFL. Todd Bowles, you can give him, look, Bucs fans have problems with him. Look, I have my own opinions on him. I think he's a good coach. He's a really good defensive mind. At least he's not a Muschamp clone. Where, if you don't know what that means, that especially in college, that's a defensive coach who is a head coach that doesn't care about offense. Todd doesn't care about offense. Obviously, that's pretty evident because a lot of his offensive coordinators have left because they've done so well. But the thing about Todd Bowles, when he's going against a young quarterback, whether it's in their second year or their first time starting, loves to confuse him. Much like Brent Venables, they love to confuse quarterbacks. And again, it's probably the best defensive mind that Penix has ever faced against. I think that's just pretty true. Or I think that's pretty clear. And Todd's been around for a long time. He's seen a lot. He knows a lot. And that's where I believe the key is to the game here. If Tampa can force some turnovers here, that secondary can step up because there's look, as much as everyone can clown about the Falcons having all these weapons and have Kyle Pitts, and they have all these supposedly decently talented receivers. They haven't necessarily had the best distributors of football. I know the two Bucs games last year were sort of the outlier to what was the norm, but I think the Bucs secondary this year is a little bit better than it was last year. I know they were banged up at times last year, and ironically, both times they played the Falcons last year. But, it's something to think about, with Michael Penix, his ability to not only distribute the football, and he's a good thrower, he can also run the football. He's more of a runner, dual threat type of guy, or type of QB. So that does concern me a little bit, knowing Todd's history with dual threat guys. He's not had the best. But he is still young, though, so that does make me more comfortable. I think the Bucs offense should be able to flex their muscles a little bit. I think the big key for Tampa is run the football, keep the defense fresh, choose some clock a little bit, take those long drives. And I think with Joshua Gizzard, I do expect him to be, I don't know. I think like last year when I thought the offense would be behind the defense, it turned out to be sort of, but I was wrong on that. I think the offense and defense should be about the same. Some struggles. I think you will see some mistakes early. I'm not expecting Ibuka to have like a huge game out the gate. I think it will take him some time to get used to it, which is understandable. He's a younger player, but he's still very talented, and I expect him to contribute a little bit Sunday. I do expect Mike Evans to be the future, at least the future player, I think, on the receiver-wise. But I think the overall player on offense to be, besides quarterback, I think is Bucky Irving in that running back room, whether it's Rashard White, if he's able to go, or it's Sean Tucker, who's, again, that's really good. A backup player to have as a running back. They could do some damage here for the Falcons. I think the Falcons' defense, I think it was evident at times last year, was not always the best, even in the games they won. Really a lot of high-scoring games. So because of all that, going on the road to Mercedes-Benz is not the most intimidating atmosphere, to say the least, but, it's week one. A lot of the fans, whether it's NFL or college, are still invested. So it's going to be probably a packed house. I expect it to be somewhat hostile. I expect it to be a very decent crowd. So, it's going to be loud and whatnot. And again, for some of these young guys like Ibuka and, guys like Tez Johnson, who could be stepping up. He's the other rookie receiver from Oregon. They're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be overall clean, but we'll see. Saying all of that, and I think what it really boils down to, at least for me, picking this game, is the experience is a factor here. I think Tampa has more experienced quarterback, and I think they have a defense that, if the secondary is better, if we're able to believe as a Bucs fan, speaking as a Bucs fan here, if we're able to believe that the Bucs secondary has improved and Todd's able to figure it out, these guys can stay healthy, then the Bucs should be able to, get a crucial turnover at times and, maybe get some stops crucially in a game that I expect to be somewhat close. I think Tampa's going to win, and I think they cover slightly. It's not going to be like this big, they're going to win by, 10 plus points. No, I think they'll be competitive, and I think they will, struggle a little bit at times, but I do believe Tampa will win. I think they cover, and they do start out 1-0. And then it's on to Houston, which I am, just as a spoiler, I guess. I guess we'll talk about it more next week. I am very concerned about that game, as you probably heard in the record projection. Yeah, that's a concerning game. It's going to be tough on the road. They're Monday night. So, hey, at least you have an extra day to prepare. But, so, yeah, if the Bucs win and they cover, I expect it to be a very entertaining game. So, that's it for the show. Again, apologies for what happened in between there. Just something to take care of there. Nothing serious or anything. Just something that kind of popped up a little bit. Had a visit from someone. So, yeah, again, on Spotify, apologies, but we're going to have to split this up into 2 recordings. I think, let me see if the other one was saved or not. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Worst case scenario, there's just no Spotify recording or whatnot, and we're just on YouTube only. So I'll make that decision, or I'll announce that at some point here in the near future, either tomorrow or Friday about that. But, yeah, apologies for the Spotify folks if you're listening to this on YouTube. Again, it's just unfortunate timing, but, it happens sometimes. And, but, hey, we're able to professionally handle it. So that's good. So at least we know that we can do that and we can properly handle ourselves when, whether it's an audio issue or things like that. So, yeah, so until we'll do our reaction on Saturday night, recap of college football. Won't do anything Sunday. We'll save the Bucs stuff for Tuesday, a reaction to that. So until Saturday, enjoy the rest of your week. I guess enjoy the NFL games today and tomorrow, and enjoy the college games tomorrow too, if you're watching. I'll be paying attention to some of those, but yeah, until for the proper show, will be until Tuesday, but Saturday we'll do another reaction. That's our goal is to do those when we can. So, yeah, I guess should I talk about the tropics? I'm watching it. I guess I forgot to mention that. Yeah, there is that area in the far Atlantic, off the coast of Africa we're watching. We'll see about that. The models have not been too consistent yet. At least there's some consensus, but not a whole lot to be confident about. But we're watching it. It is hurricane season, and if we have to change our schedule, we'll change our schedule. We've done it before. Last year, we'll do it again. But yeah, so enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the games for NFL and college, and we'll see you guys on the reaction show live on Sunday night, and we'll see you guys back or Saturday night, and then we'll see you guys for the show on Tuesday. So until then, enjoy your weekend. Take care, and we'll see you on the next stream.